Hey everyone, GuardianE here with another Destiny Child video, and today we're going to be covering the second anniversary events. Yes, the second anniversary celebration is here for Destiny Child. Congratulations to ShiftUp and Destiny Child Global in general on this milestone. I think the game has made a lot of strides. It's made huge improvements over the past couple of years in a lot of transitional changes, and we get to reap the benefits, and hopefully that means many more years to come. Now, because it's a celebration, that of course means that we as players get a ton of goodies. So there is actually a lot to go over as far as the celebration. I'm going to try to keep it brief and try to keep it moving along. So let's get started. First, let's get the simple stuff out of the way. Rewards upon logging in every day. That's it. All you've got to do for this is log in each day. You can see each day has a different set of rewards, and they're all great. On the 3rd, you get 22 of each of the crafting stones. On the 4th, you get 2 10 times summon tickets, so that's basically 2 free multis. On the 6th, you get 1 5-star summon ticket. On the 6th, you get 1,206 crystals times 2, which is great. More crystals is always nice. And on the 7th, you get a whopping 222 blood gems, which is amazing. Blood gems that'll definitely help with either acquiring certain skins or by using the House of Reincarnation. They dropped the Hephaestus' Forge, which introduces the ignition system. We will be going over that later in this video and giving just a general overview of how ignition works. But what you need to know is that if you log in for 8 days, you'll get a bunch of materials. So again, in line with the first bonus, just log in. Just log in and you'll be rewarded. And finally, we have Lisa's Extra Lessons making a return, much awaited. We will be going over that in much more depth, taking a deep dive into Lisa's Extra Lessons a little bit later. We'll get 2 free multis every day throughout the course of the event, which is fantastic. And also, if you collect these little Destiny Child coins, you get a 5-star ticket as long as you do that every single day. That can be gained just by doing story missions, anything like that, and I'll show you that right now, actually. Doing any old story mission, you can see on the right-hand side for the possible rewards, you can get some of the Destiny Child coins. So as long as you get, I think it's 5 of them per day, you can hit the little second anniversary button on the home screen, and it'll take you here, where each day for 14 days, you just have to collect 5 of them and claim them each day. Remember to claim them each day. If you don't claim them, then it's not going to count. So you want to make sure to claim them like I'm going to do right now, and I'll get 250 crystals for today just for collecting those 5 Destiny Child coins. So you want to do that every single day, and as long as you do that every day, you will end up with the completion reward, which is the 5-star ticket. As mentioned, 2 free multis on the Premium Summon Child banner. You can see them right here, 2 out of 2. It says free. I'm actually just going to do them right now. May as well. We're recording, may as well get them out of the way. But that's excellent. You have a great chance. It's the standard 3% and no rate ups, but you have a pretty good chance of getting a free 5-star out of this, all things considered, and in addition to that, some potential Onyx. So I just skipped, which means we're getting a 5-star this time around, which is exciting. Come on, Davi, give me something good. That is going to be a Rusalka, which is honestly not great. Not the best. This version of Rusalka anyway. However, getting more native 5-stars is always a good thing for House of Reincarnation and for Hephaestus' Forge. So let's do the other free multi. Already got a 5-star, so I'm not really expecting to get much out of the second one here, but we're going to skip again for the sake of brevity and keeping this video moving along. Yeah, didn't get anything, but we're getting a lot of Onyx in the process, which is always nice. So that's very nice, and it's also going to add to our mileage, I believe. So the mileage up there, so it'll actually add towards getting a free 5-star ticket out of the mileage, which is also great. Now let's cover Lisa's Extra Lessons, 2nd Anniversary Edition. So let's get the elephant in the room out of the way. Lisa's Extra Lessons has received a bit of a downgrade from the last time we got this event. The format is very similar in terms of how you complete it and everything. However, the rewards are not quite as strong, especially for veteran players, I will say. It's still an exceptional event, especially for newer players. It's still useful for veteran players, but it's not like the mind-boggling, incredible event it was in the past year. And essentially, by the end of it, you were rewarded with at least 2 native level 60 plus 6 units that were fully maxed out in their skills, which is a boatload of Onyx and everything else. I mean, it was pretty amazing. I have to say, it was pretty phenomenal. Lisa's extra missions are definitely geared towards newer players now. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. At worst, throwing free 5-stars at veterans gives us House of Reincarnation fodder or Ignition fodder, which is always a good thing. But definitely a step back from last year's. I'd advise to not look at last year's video that we put out for Lisa's Extra Lessons if you missed out, because you might get a little salty about how things have changed. That said, this event is still an amazing kickstart for newer players, and a nice little boost or a little bonus for veteran players as well. So the format of Lisa's Extra Lessons is that every single day, Lisa gives you 2 tasks that you need to complete. Very, very simple tasks. You can see that for Lesson 1, all I had to do was fight 3 battles in story mode, any difficulty, and use 30 stamina. That is incredibly easy, and you probably did it without even realizing you were completing the lesson. And the rest of the lessons are similarly super easy. Lesson 2, level up a child to 10, level up any skill, extract onyx, awaken any onyx, sell items to get gold, 5 story mode battles, do the material dungeon, 5 to underground, on any difficulty. Again, these aren't barred by any level of difficulty. Night world exploration for 3 hours at least. Join PvP 3 times. And win one of them, and you do all of Lesson 7. So these lessons are super, super easy, geared towards newer players. A fresh account, that's what these are geared towards, for sure. You can do these with a fresh account. If you want to start up the game now, you could easily do these. Now, the only hitch is that you need to make sure that you log in every day so that you're doing the lessons every day. Because you can only do 1 lesson per day. So just don't run out of time. There is a grace period. There's more time for the event than there are lessons, but you don't want to get into that situation where you end up missing a couple of days and you're scrapped and you can't miss any more days, or else you're gonna lose out on Lesson 7 and miss out on the grade. So the final grade is based on how many lessons you complete, and depending on the lessons you complete, you'll get a higher grade. The higher grade means you get more of the rewards at the end here that you can choose from. There is no reason for anybody to not get an A+ here, so there's no excuse. Get an A+ here. It's worth it because you get to pick 4 of the final rewards here, as opposed to 2 if you get a B and 1 if you get a D. So that means of these 8 rewards down here, you get half of them. You can choose half of them if you get an A+. So definitely do that. So let's cover what your options are for the rewards for each of the lessons. So for Lesson 1, you get to choose 2 of the native 5 stars that are available from this list. Again, it's a little bit different from the last time because you could only choose 1 out of a much smaller group, but that 1 was level 60 plus 6, fully maxed out, with all the fix-ins. This time you're just getting a native 5 star, and they're just going to be level 1, no skill ups or anything else. Generally speaking, my mantra has always been, go for a character you really like. That's the most important thing in games like this. Don't lose sight of that. That's my personal advice. But for those of you who are very interested in the meta, or newer players that just want to jumpstart to the viability of their teams, I am going to be going over a couple of key choices that I think are potentially optimal for you, depending on your box. So first and foremost, and this hasn't really changed from the last time around, is Chang'e. If you don't have Chang'e, you want to have Chang'e. She's been top tier since day 1. With the ignition system, she's actually even better now. She has competition. She's not like the de facto choice anymore for every single event or anything like that, like she used to be, but she still is exceptionally strong. So to the extent that you do not have Chang'e, definitely grab her. She is essentially a huge asset to practically any team. Her skills allow her to essentially grant skill gauge charge down and skill slide cooldown for 2 allies on the team, which just increases the amount of attacks you do, increases the amount of damage you do overall. It's just really, really potent. Another carryover from last year is Dana. Dana is still one of the best defenders in the game from day 1, especially for specific types of content. She's just exceptionally strong because she puts up a shield for 5 units on your team. That is very powerful, and your teams in Destiny Child are comprised of 5 units, so she basically gives a shield to the entire team, outside of things like World Boss, where you have more than 5 units, and it's a formidable shield. And by the time your shield wears out, she usually has her slide back available so she can activate the shield again. So it's pretty strong. She's definitely a great candidate for a lot of game modes, and including early PvP, she's just great to have. Yet another carryover from last year is Lost Mott. So Mott on day 1 was one of the best healers in the entire game, extremely potent, was able to resurrect a member of your team with her drive skill, had intense healing ability with her slide, just really, really strong. She came out, there was a lot of competition that came out as far as healers for a lot of different game modes, and there still are at this point, so she's not like the de facto choice. But I will say that with the recent changes in slotting the AI behavior so that she slides every time versus tapping, that's actually made Mott just even better. So Mott is definitely a great choice if you're missing a healer, if you want a healer. There are some budget choices for healers as well, so I would put Mott a little bit lower probably than Dana and Chang'e, probably Chang'e on top, but she's still definitely a worthwhile choice if you don't have her. Next, I'd like to mention Eve. Eve is still an excellent choice. When the game first came out, Eve was basically the best attacker in the game for an extended period of time. She was basically able to add damage over time with her poison, which was exceptional. She had decent stats in general, and that poison essentially just added more damage to any team, regardless of what the color typing was of the enemy. Eve has a lot more competition now. There are more poisoners, there are more water attackers that rival or exceed her in those respects, but at the same time, Eve is still very, very strong. So if you don't have Eve, this is not a bad choice at all to grab her here. She is still exceptionally strong in most game modes and still worth having and worth using. Those were kind of the key units from Lesson 1 that I wanted to cover that are kind of must-haves, I would say, for any newer player especially. But there are a couple of honorable mentions that I also want to talk about. First up here is Syrinx. So Syrinx is essentially a PvP healer. She's decent. She's definitely worth having, especially if you haven't dived that far into PvP and you still want to like just compete and kind of coast in it, and you don't have her. This is an opportunity to snag her, so I just want to highlight that. I think Side bears mentioning. So Side has the unique ability with her slide skill to grant double-edged sword buff to 5 fire type allies. This is actually pretty useful in something like a world boss where you may not have a lot of great attackers for a particular element, and if that's the case, you can actually slap a bunch of fire attackers in there with Side, and she's going to give a 70% damage boost to those allies. So they'll be doing not exactly effective damage, but they'll be doing decent damage irrespective of what color they're fighting up against. So something worth noting. Mars is another good option if you don't have her for world bosses. She is probably the best defender for world bosses because her skill does grant a shield to every unit in the team, which in a world boss is a huge expanse of 10 units basically, which would be reaping the benefits of the shields or the barriers. So Mars is a great choice if you don't have her. It's also worth highlighting Pantheon here. Pantheon is a crit bringer. Basically, he buffs his allies to do insane amounts of crit damage. And he's pretty vital on a lot of teams to optimize damage. So he's a pretty great choice, and to this day, he's still very strong. And speaking of critting, a little bit of a dark horse pick as far as honorable mentions is Elizabeth. I like Elizabeth a lot because I think she pairs really well in the combination with Pantheon and Demon Hunter Demon, the Soul Carta. Because what that essentially means, so Elizabeth is a tap attacker. She attacks 4 times with her tap. You can set that as the AI so that, which is great. That means that it used to be that you could only really use her for manual because you'd have to tap manually. But since you can set her to tap, that basically optimizes her damage. So you can set her to tap 4 times. Pantheon gives her huge boosts to not only her crit damage, but her crit rate. So she's critting basically every time. Demon Hunter Demon vastly increases the crit damage of Dark allies, which means this combination can really be slapped into any Ragna team, and she'll be doing really strong damage regardless of the color. Since she's a dark element, she doesn't have color disadvantage against anybody, so she's just going to be critting and doing 24, 30, 40,000 damage for every hit 4 times in a row, and it's a beautiful thing to see. So I'll just throw in that recommendation in there too if you don't have her. And honestly, I think that's more or less it for my picks of Lesson 1. So as a newer player, I definitely kind of go down that list of Chang'e, Dana, and Mott. I think those are basically the holy trinity. Chang'e coming out on top of that, especially with Ignition coming out. And then I've given you a lot of other options that I think are worth exploring to the extent that you don't have those in your box currently. So lessons 2 through 4 are pretty interesting because they're the same, the rewards at least. So the rewards are you can either get, you can pick 2 of the prizes, and you can get either 1 5-star ticket of a particular element or 1 5-star ticket of a particular unit type. So attacker, defender, healer, debuffer, or support. Honestly, there's no real wrong answer here. If you have a specific target in mind, like a specific unit that you really want to get, then by all means, go for that particular color or that particular type. If you don't have a specific target in mind and you really just want to hedge your bets for the best chance of getting a decent unit out of this, and you don't have a lot of units in your box, you just want to, get the best chance of getting something decent, I would say probably the light element ticket and the support tickets are probably the best bets as far as having a pool of the best units and most versatile units in the game. If you want a little bit more detail and nuance in the ticket selection, I would recommend going to the Destiny Child global subreddit. Toxic Ways has created a thread on there that does discuss some of the options with the tickets, so that might be a good resource for you. But generally speaking, I would say if you have any doubts and you don't have a specific target in mind, I would recommend taking the light ticket or the support ticket, or the light ticket and the support ticket, because you can choose both. Lesson 5 allows you to choose 2 5-stars out of a different pool from Lesson 1. And these include a lot of more recent childs that have been introduced into the game, and like with Lesson 1, I do want to go over some key choices. So for newer players, I think that there are some very obvious picks if you don't have these units in particular. I think right up front, Newbie Mona is an amazing choice, and similar to Chang'e, essentially increases the DPS of your team by increasing their speed and enhancing and giving them a buff as well. So Mona is definitely an excellent choice, I would say. So in addition to Newbie Mona, another excellent choice would be Neptune if you don't have her. So Neptune is a light supporter, and basically she also increases the speed, the charge speed of your team. In addition to that, she acts as a pseudo healer, and in addition to that, in Rage, she gives Double-Edged Sword, which is an enhanced attack buff. So she kind of does it all. She's kind of a Swiss Army knife as far as raids are concerned, so she is very, very strong and can oftentimes replace a healer that you would be using in a Ragna break, for example. I think that those two are very, very obvious picks. Next up, I would say Bathory. So Lady Bathory is a wood debuffer. She basically acted as a counter to the damage over time meta that existed in Destiny Child up to her release, and she effectively, as you can see here, her leader buff in PvP gives damage over time minus 50% to all enemies, so it essentially debuffs the enemy, so their damage over time is 50% less, which was a huge, huge blow to a lot of teams that were centered around damage over time. So, and Bathory is just strong, I think, in her own right, even outside of that specific valuable utility that she has that's pretty unique. And I would also highlight Sweet Citri. So Sweet Citri is amazing for world bosses, in particular her drive skill. Lovemaker is phenomenal because what it does is it not only acts as a barrier for the front row, but acts as a damage boost to the back row, and then increases the tap damage essentially of the back row, which is what a Fever Time would be. So she's kind of perfect for using as a drive skill right before Fever Time and setting her for that. So she is very strong in that respect. And speaking of powerful world boss units, there is Grieving Thetis. So if you don't have Thetis, she's a great option for world bosses as well, because she has a debuff extension. So in world bosses, oftentimes since you have so many units and you have so many debuffers, usually you're stacking a ton of debuffs on the world boss itself. And Thetis is just going to enhance all of those and just make them last that much longer and be that much more potent with her skills, with that debuff extension. So she's very valuable there. Sunbeach Mona is also an excellent choice, so she inflicts the Scald and Burning damage over time debuff on the enemy, so any damage over time that you can stack onto things that are already there, like Poison, just overall enhances your damage capability. So Sunbeach Mona, excellent for a lot of world bosses, just to stack on more damage that the overall team can do, so she's a great pick. Another Dark Horse pick for me is Liberated Mott. So this version of Mott is a dark attacker, and similar to Elizabeth in Lesson 1, she can do the whole Demon Hunter Demon plus Pantheon combo. She has one of the strongest taps in the game, and if you enhance her and use her to that effect, I mean, she can very much work in tandem with Elizabeth to do tons of damage. Liberated Mott early on was pretty bad. A lot of people didn't use her because the AI oftentimes just used her slide instead, which just isn't great. So because you're able to set her to tap every single time, she's now pretty good. So I think I would just highlight the fact that she is available, and she's actually pretty strong right now. So that wraps up my recommendations, my personal recommendations for Lesson 5. Coming out on top is going to be Newbie Mona and Neptune. I think if you don't have either of those or one of them, make room in your selections for those. The rest, I gave you my thoughts on those. If any of them sound interesting to you, take one of the ones that I recommended, or hey, pick any of them. If you like the design of one of these units, this is a great opportunity to just snag one for your box. So there aren't bad choices here as far as I'm concerned. Pick what you like, right? Now, Lesson 6 is very interesting. You can only select one of these rewards, and you can choose either one of the 522 crafting stones for each of either a weapon, accessory, or armor. You can either pick 12 million gold, you can either pick 1,220,000 onyx, or 12,222 crystals. Now you might be thinking, hey, it's a gacha game, why wouldn't I pick the summoning currency? 12,000 crystals all the way. Well, what I will say is that Destiny Child is a little bit different in the choke points for growth. So at least if you're efficient in how you grind crystals on a daily basis, 12,000 crystals, you can accumulate that in the course of a couple of weeks, pretty easily, depending on how hard you grind. And the Onyx, on the other hand, ends up being a huge choke point for a lot of players because you need Onyx for everything. You need Onyx for Awakening, you need Onyx for leveling up skills, you just need a ton of Onyx if you're going to be leveling up your characters. Gold, similarly, you need gold essentially to do everything. But I would say that Onyx is a little bit harder to come by because the only way you can get Onyx is by selling units that you get, either through summoning or by farming or anything like that. And it's a slow grind. So that 1,220,000 Onyx is looking mighty tempting. This selection is definitely going to be very player dependent. I think generally speaking, for most players, they're always going to have a use for Onyx. So I think Onyx is kind of the key choice here if I had to pick one. Some people might have tons and tons of Onyx, especially whales, and maybe they just want crafting stones, so they'll get the crafting stones. Or they'll just grab the money, because again, money is very versatile as well. You can do a lot with money in this game. Honestly, I would say that the crystals is probably, even behind gold as far as what you may want to be picking for this particular lesson. So this is going to be dependent on your box and what you need to supplement the most, what you have the least of, but just bear that in mind. And for lesson 7, you can choose one of these 4 batches of core materials. So this is going into Ignition, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. What you should know, I suppose, at least at this juncture, is that each of these cores is for a different stat. So as you can see, attack, defense, agility, and crit. And so 99 is exactly the amount that you need in order to make a core. So they're essentially giving you enough resources to make a core if you use this in addition to a native 5-star. I would say when in doubt, attack is a great choice. You could possibly go for crit or agility as well. Especially agility, if you want to enhance the ability of your unit to inflict debuffs or enhance their ability to buff, things like that. But attack is basically, I think, kind of the catch-all if you have any doubt about which direction to go. And then finally, the grade reward that you can pick. You can pick, like I said, there's no reason to not get an A+ here. So get an A+, you'll be able to choose 4 of these rewards. It's a little interesting how they've done it. So you can either get a 2019 pick of a 2019 child. So you can select any of a batch of 2019 childs, which I'll open here. So as you can see here, a lot of these are repeats from the selection that we just talked about. So the same recommendations come through here. I mean, it's the same type of stuff. It's basically every child in 2019 outside of Collab and House of Reincarnation units. But yeah, I mean, feel free to pick one as a +1 to uncap one of your existing units, or if you weren't able to pick all of the recommendations from either Lesson 1 or Lesson 5, then you can pick the one here. So this is a great opportunity. Just pick another child for free. Next is a 2019 Child Spa Skin Select Box. So you can pick actually one of these spa skins out of a selection of all of them from 2019. This is actually great. I actually really like this because I like the spa. I know a lot of people have mixed opinions about it, but I think the spa is a lot of fun. You get to see the units in a different environment and with a different skin and chilling, and you're also just enhancing them. So I actually like it, and I do like the spa skins as well. But despite my love for them, what I will say is that they are basically cosmetic. There is some advantage in getting dupes of spa skins because you can use those to increase the friendship gauge with those childs in the spa, and increasing the friendship gauge ultimately increases their stats and everything. So there is, that element to it. If you did want to just go kind of have some meta reason for picking a spa skin, it would be to get a dupe of a really powerful child that you use, and be able to use that to increase the spa level. There's also the 2019 Prism Carta Select Box. So for those of you who don't know, for Soul Cartas themselves, you can get by either a regular version or sort of a hollow foil Prism version. And so the Prism versions are very shiny, but they also have enhanced abilities, like the stats they give and the effect that they give are just stronger. So generally speaking, you want to get a Prism copy of a Carta, and then use regular versions of the Carta to enhance the Prism version of the Carta. And Prism versions of Cartas are actually pretty rare. Their probability of them dropping is exceptionally lower than regular Cartas. So you get a great selection of Cartas here that are available. My personal recommendations of Cartas that are kind of universally worth having is Showtime, for one. I think Showtime is great. It's a great defensive Soul Carta here. I think it's definitely one that's worth having as Prism if you don't have it as a Prism. Similarly, Forbidden Fruit is a great Soul Carta as well. Again, high defensive stats, increase the overall tankiness of your units, especially in something like World Boss where they're going to be on the front lines. And then it's worth highlighting Demon Hunter Demon here. So this is what I was talking about with Elizabeth and Pantheon, as well as Dark Mott with Pantheon. But essentially you can see here, increases critical damage, attack damage by 4,100 in raids. So in Ragna Breaks, essentially, if you slap this on a Dark unit, they're going to get huge boosts to their crit damage. So this is a worthwhile choice if you don't have one. And then I would wheedle through these as you see fit. Obviously, the art in some of them are amazing. That's worth noting. But also, as you can see, a lot of them are geared towards specific elements and specific game modes. So this one's obviously geared towards weak point skill damage for world bosses. You have max attack for fire heroes or fire units against world bosses here. You have max attack for light units in against world bosses. So, depending on your needs and enhancing your effectiveness in a particular game mode, you may want to choose a different Soul Carta here. But it's great that you're getting a Prism Soul Carta for free, basically. And again, they're generally speaking a little bit on the harder side to get. So I'm not going to go through it again because the recommendations carry over, but there is also a regular non-Prism Soul Carta selection box that you can choose as a reward. Then there is a Ignition Core material select box. So I don't know exactly how common Ignition Cores are going to be. Going forward, we're going to have to see how Global shapes up compared to the other servers. But this might not be a bad choice depending on how rare these actually are and how deep you want to get into Ignition. Ignition is definitely a mid to late game sort of veteran type of enhancement. So for people that are starting out, I wouldn't recommend choosing this, but it might be worth considering. And then lastly, you have a weapon, armor, and accessory selection box. So you get a grade A, a highest rank of one of these weapons or one of these armors or one of these accessories that are available that were from 2019. Yeah, let's see the accessories here. Okay. So for me personally, the no-brainer choice is getting the 2019 Child, of course. Getting your pick of a unit is always just a valuable thing. Next would be the Prism Soul Carta. So I think those two everybody should be picking, no matter who you are. You should be getting one of the free units, you should be getting one of the Prism Soul Cartas, and that's kind of that. As far as the two other choices, it's kind of a toss-up. You can go for the regular Soul Carta to enhance the Prism Soul Carta that you get. That is always an option. You could go for the Spa Skin, because I think Spa Skins are awesome. And again, they're mostly cosmetic, but it's a fun element of the game. So if you enjoy the hunt of Spa Skins, then this is a great way to kind of complete your collection of Spa Skins. Ignition Cores are kind of an open-ended thing. It may be worth doing, especially since we don't know how rare Ignition Cores are going to be going forward. So that's something to consider. The weapons, armors, and accessories, I would stay away from. They're all equipment from 2019. They're all pretty much outdated at this point. They're still relatively strong, but you're pretty much able to procure grade A equipment with relative ease in this game over time. So I wouldn't say that there's any like huge urgency to get one of these 2019 weapons and armors and accessories when they're not even the best weapons and armors and accessories. So I would pass on those, hard pass. I would, again, getting the free 2019 unit, getting the free guaranteed Prism Soul Carta are the top two. The rest, I think, is up to your personal preference as far as getting a regular Soul Carta, getting the Ignition Cores, or getting the Spa Skin. So that's my personal recommendation for Lisa's Extra Lessons. Alright, so I was originally planning on putting an overview of Ignition in this video. Unfortunately, this video is way too long already. I didn't expect it to go on this long, and I apologize for rambling. I tried to be concise, but that's me. So we're just going to put out a separate Ignition overview video that just kind of generally goes over the new system and how it works. So be on the lookout for that. And let me know who you're going to be choosing for your Lisa's Extra Lessons 5 stars, as well as your other prizes. Hopefully you all enjoyed the video. If you did, please feel free to leave us a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel for more Destiny Child content. We thank you all so much for watching and for taking time out of your day to spend with us. We really do appreciate it. Certainly hoping you're all staying safe, healthy, secure, and united out there, and wishing the very best for you, your family, and your friends. And until next time, let's keep on slacking.